colleagues, we will move to question time, and I'll just give you a few seconds to get to your places. Senator Sharma.
Thank you, President. President, my question's to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Minister, can you confirm reports in the Australian newspaper that today, for the first time in Australia's history, national debt has hit $1 trillion?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Wong.
Thank you very much, President. I thank Senator Sharma for the question, and I would make the point, or make 2 points. The first is the government is transparent on the nature of and extent of government debt, and the second point is that if the coalition had stayed in power, debt would have crossed the $1 trillion mark 3 years ago.
Order.
3 years ago.
Order.
So. And if you had been in charge, gross debt would be nudging $1.2 trillion.
Minister Wong,
So we are very.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order. Senator Sharma was heard in silence, and the minister's response will be heard in silence. Minister, please continue.
President, I know it's an uncomfortable truth for them. It's an uncomfortable truth that, in fact, gross debt is in fact lower every year of the forward estimates compared to that which we inherited, and I know that fact is hard for those opposite.
Order.
To
Order. I realise, sorry, Senator Sharma, I was aware you were on your feet, but I was also aware that your side were being so disruptive it was pointless calling you. But I will call you now, Senator Sharma.
Thank you, President. Point of order on relevance. My question was quite straightforward and direct, seeking the minister's confirmation of reports that gross debt has reached $1 trillion. That's all I was after.
Thank you, Senator Sharma. The minister is being relevant, and I'll continue to listen carefully. Thank you.
Well, I think the budget statements were very clear. Budget Statement 3 made clear that, and I'm quoting, that at 30th June 2027, for gross debt is forecast to be $1,051 billion, $18 billion below MyEFO, and $173 billion below the 2022 PFO. So, Senator, what I would say to you is we know there is a great deal of work that. Sorry, I thought you were standing. We know there continues to be work that needs to be done when it comes to the budget and fiscal sustainability. The government has made a set of decisions which have actually improved the budget position compared to what it would have been under the coalition's forecasts and under the trajectory that the coalition had us on, Senator. And I trust, as someone who I know is interested in these matters, that you would actually look at the Treasury documents. I wasn't actually meaning to be debating.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order. 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 Senators, we are just on the first supplementary, and I've had to stand already to get order in this chamber. Senator Sharma was on his feet ready to ask his question, and he couldn't because of the disorder in this chamber. Senator Sharma, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. Minister, the medium-term budget outlook shows that interest expenses are one of the fastest-growing areas of government spending. Will the Prime Minister and your government continue to irresponsibly add to this by national debt continuing to increase over the forward estimates, as budget papers show?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I have been in this chamber for a number of years and listened to Senator Gallagher make that point precisely, that interest payments were one of the largest components of expenditure and in the budget, and why it was so important that Labor delivered the surpluses that we delivered and ensured that we have a lower trajectory on debt than we inherited. So, Senator, it is true we do live in a time where we know that the ageing of the population and the nature of the challenges on demands that government are rightly made of government. Fiscal sustainability is a challenge, and I would make the point to you that the Treasurer, Treasurer Chalmers, and the Minister for Finance, Minister Gallagher, have handed down budgets, including two budget surpluses.
Has expired. Senator Sharma, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Minister, in the interest of directness and transparency, how high do you expect gross government debt under your government to reach?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Wong.
2 points I'd make. The first is this is transparently reported in the budget papers, and second, I make the point that our debt position is lower than it would have been under you.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ghosh.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations, Senator Watt. The Albanese Labor government is delivering real change for Australian workers by helping Australians earn more and keep more of what they earn. A key part of that is ensuring unemployment remains low by historical standards. Minister, can you detail the ABS labour force data which was released this morning?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Watt.
And Senator Ghosh, as a matter of fact, I can. Today's labour force figures demonstrate that Australia's labour market remains resilient despite some softening. This is particularly the case when we compare Australia's jobs market to other advanced economies and, by historical standards, with more than 1.3 million jobs added to our economy since the election of the Albanese Labor government. Doesn't Senator McGrath look happy about that fact among his colleagues?
Minister Watt, I remind you to direct your comments to the Chair.
President, can't you observe Senator McGrath's happiness about the 1.3 million jobs added to our economy under the Albanese Labor government? The unemployment rate did increase marginally over the month of July, but this remains low by historical standards. While employment decreased by 15,800 in July, we've seen an increase over the year, with more than 190,000 more Australians in work than a year ago. Encouragingly, full-time employment rose over the month, with a record 10.2 million Australians in full-time work in July. The underemployment rate also fell marginally in July, which means that more Australian workers are getting the hours that they want. While the participation rate decreased slightly over the month to 66.9%, it remains a fraction below its record high of 67.2%. These figures released today demonstrate the resilience of Australia's labour market against the backdrop of global economic challenges, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. There will, of course, continue to be challenges across the global economy, and we are not immune. However, since 2022, employment growth in Australia has outpaced all other major advanced economies, including the US, Canada, Italy, France, Germany, UK and Japan. Of course, with the ongoing global uncertainty, our government is taking practical measures to shield our nation and household budgets from the worst of this. These figures come after ABS data released yesterday, which showed real wages grew in the June quarter and annual nominal wages have now grown above 3% for 4 years under this Labor government. We are delivering real change for Australians.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Ghosh, first supplementary.
Minister, the unemployment rate remains low by historical standards and participation rates remain high. While the government has made a lot of progress, we know that many Australian workers are still doing it tough. How is the Albanese Labor government supporting workers dealing with cost of living pressures?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Ghosh. The Albanese Labor government understands that many Australians are under pressure at the moment due to the global inflation shock, and that's why we're taking action by helping to address inflation. I'm not sure why Senator Mackenzie's piping up. I imagine she's pretty looking forward to getting back to her electorate, where she'll meet even more National Party members who've joined One Nation. I imagine that's why she's happy at the moment. We are taking action. Senator Cash is also looking forward to getting back and meeting the Liberals who've gone to One Nation. Senator Colbeck's looking forward to getting back and meeting One Nation members who used to be Liberals.
Minister Watt, resume your seat. Order. Senator Mackenzie. Senator Mackenzie, that outburst by you and Senator Henderson was incredibly disrespectful. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. The idea that respect wouldn't be shown to me, I find abhorrent.
Minister Watt. Order. Senator Wong, order. Senator McKenzie and Henderson, if you can't sit respectfully in this chamber and show respect to me, leave. Minister Watt, please continue.
Thank you, President. As I was saying, we're taking action to combat the global inflation shock, and we're also rolling out more cost-of-living relief, including higher wages and more tax cuts. And at the same time, our government is responsibly managing the budget, tackling inflation and strengthening our economy. And it's worth remembering that every action we've taken to help Australians has been opposed by that coalition of the Liberals, Nationals and One Nation.
Thank you, Senator Watt. Just a minute, Senator Ghosh. I haven't called anyone. I'm waiting for silence. Senator Ghosh, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. According to the ABS, female participation is close to a record high, which is good for families, communities and the economy. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to support women in the workforce, and are there any obstacles to ensure women are supported in their jobs?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Watt.
I'm afraid to say there are obstacles, Senator Ghosh. The Albanese Labor government— hello, there's one there. There's one there. There's one right there.
Minister, please direct your comments to me, and order on the left.
The Albanese Labor government, led by Minister Gallagher, the Minister for Women, has put women's economic equality at the centre of our government's agenda, and it's encouraging to see we're making progress in the right direction.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Henderson, order. 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 Senator Cash, order. 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 Order across the chamber. Senator Henderson, I will name you. Minister Watt, please continue.
Thanks, President. The Albanese government is tackling the gender pay gap from every angle, including by delivering pay rises for minimum wage workers, boosting wages in the early childhood—
Watt, please resume your seat. It's incredibly disrespectful when I call order for senators on the front bench of the left-hand side of the chamber to call out, to completely disregard what I say. I'm serious. I will name you. Minister Watt, please continue.
We're expanding paid parental leave, and we're paying paid superannuation on paid parental leave, in addition to those wage rises for carers and aged care sectors. Of course, not everyone supports the women's workplace rights. We've previously seen Senator Cash claim that family and domestic violence leave would be a perverse disincentive to women's employment. We've seen Senator Canavan describe the gender pay gap as complete nonsense, and Senator Hanson calling the gender pay gap smoke and mirrors. That is the danger that Australians face under a Liberal National One Nation coalition.
Has expired. Senator McGrath.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Veterans Affairs Minister Matt Keogh has lost the trust of the veterans community because he has treated them with contempt and without empathy. Now Labor parliamentarians are privately leaking to the media that Minister Keogh should be sacked, with one MP complaining about his refusal to meet with veterans in these terms, and I quote, "People deserve to be heard, that's what we get paid for," end of quote. When will Prime Minister Albanese listen to the veterans community and his own Labor colleagues and sack Minister Keogh?
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Minister Wong.
Thank you. First, I again go back to what I have said, I think, on multiple occasions this week, that those who have the courage to serve our country deserve our respect and our care when they return. We should, all governments should ensure that veterans are treated with respect and with care. The country should ensure that. That is why this government has invested more in Veterans Affairs than any previous government, including to deal with the backlog which was causing pain and concern. Senator, I acknowledge the concerns which have been raised publicly by veterans groups and others, and I would say to you that Minister Keogh has acknowledged, and I think I read this out yesterday, that he did the wrong thing in not taking the meeting initially, that he has subsequently engaged with veterans, and he will continue to talk with the veterans community and indeed will do so more, and that is as it should be. Because consulting with veterans about changes which are made is something that we take seriously. I know the Prime Minister has the greatest respect for the veterans community and engages with the veterans community regularly, and we will continue to seek to treat veterans with the respect and care they are entitled to.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McGrath, first supplementary.
Given the veterans community and his own Labor colleagues are calling for Minister Keogh to be sacked, why does Prime Minister Albanese retain any confidence in this Minister for Veterans Affairs?
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Minister Wong.
Well, I again say the government does have the greatest of respect for our veterans. They deserve our thanks. We honour their service to the country, and we will continue to invest in Veterans Affairs and supports to ensure they receive. We do our best to receive the care that they deserve. In relation to this Minister, I would make the point that Minister Keogh has worked hard to deliver additional funding, including some $2 billion in funding to support initiatives in response to the Royal Commission. This is one of the most significant investments in veterans' well-being in the country's history, and that has occurred under Minister Keogh. We have already implemented what the Commission has deemed the most important recommendation, which was the independent oversight body, the Defence and Veterans Services Commission, which Senator Lambie and the veterans community have been campaigning for.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McGrath, second supplementary.
Has the Prime Minister asked Minister Keogh to resign, or has Minister Keogh offered his resignation to the Prime Minister?
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I think I was asked yesterday whether the Prime Minister had confidence in the Veterans Affairs Minister, and my answer was yes, and I don't have anything further to add.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Faruqi.
Thank you, President. My question is to Minister Wong. Minister, Australian aid worker Zomi Frankham and 6 of her colleagues were hunted and murdered by the Israel army. For over 2 years, your government has insisted on allowing the Israeli government to investigate itself. Now, no surprises, the war criminals have ruled that they have no case to answer. You were warned repeatedly that relying on murderers to investigate themselves would never deliver justice. Yet somehow you believe that words would compel a state engaged in genocide, a state that has killed 20,000 children, a state that kidnapped and assaulted Australian citizens aboard the global Samud flotilla. Minister, does your government accept any responsibility for not getting justice for Zomi? How much more humiliation will you put this country through before you take action?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I have made clear that this outcome and the circumstances in which it was announced is outrageous and insulting. And importantly, and a lot of Senator Faruqi's points are to me, I say it was outrageous and insulting to Mal Frankham, Zomi's brother, and the whole of the Frankham family, and also to Australians. There is a lot of anger in the Australian community about this, and I share that. And I've made clear publicly today and privately to the Israeli ambassador our views about the announcement which was made, which is that the IDF, or the Israeli government's investigation will not occur. There will be no investigation into the criminal liability associated with the deaths, not just of an Australian citizen, but in fact, in total, 7 humanitarian workers who were killed in a strike where they were struck by the IDF not once, not twice, but 3 times. And Australians deserve answers, and most importantly, Mal Frankham and the Frankham family deserve answers. I will continue to engage with the family, as I did yesterday, where we announced an award in Zomi Frankom's honour on World Humanitarian Day to honour not only her work but on a day where we dedicate ourselves to honouring those humanitarian workers, not only those who have lost their lives, but to commend all those who do the best of humanity, which is to deliver aid to those who need it.
Time for answering has expired. Senator Faruqi, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, the Israeli ambassador has the audacity to say that any loss of innocent life is a tragedy. According to the UN figures released yesterday, 186 aid workers were killed in Gaza last year. The ambassador has attempted to gaslight World Central Kitchen. Do you accept the ambassador's account that Zomi and her colleagues were somehow responsible for their own deaths, or do you believe that the ambassador is lying?
Minister Wong.
No, I do not accept any assertion that sheets home responsibility for the deaths of 7 aid workers, including an Australian citizen on whose behalf I will continue to advocate in the circumstances that I have outlined. In relation to the Israeli ambassador, he does not speak for Australia, he speaks for the government of Israel.
Senator Faruqi, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, in 2010, the Labour government of the time expelled an Israeli embassy official over the misuse of Australian passports. 16 years later, the Israeli army has killed an Australian aid worker, failed to hold anyone to account, and yet there have been no consequences from your government. Minister, are you outraged enough yet to expel the Israeli ambassador?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
We maintain diplomatic relations with countries, not as an endorsement, not as endorsement of others. And I think, if a fair-minded assessment of what has happened over these last years, you would see that we have very different views to the government of Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has made that clear. We maintain diplomatic relations to advance Australia's interests, to be able to put our view directly to other countries, as I did today with the ambassador when he was called in.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Stewart.
Sorry. Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Early Childhood Education, Senator Walsh. Quality early learning gives First Nations children the very best start in life. It helps them learn, develop and thrive, and lays the foundations for success at school and beyond. Can the Minister update the Senate on the latest progress towards closing the gap in early childhood education, and how the Albanese Labor government is working with First Nations communities to build on that progress?
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Minister Walsh.
Thank you very much, President. And yes, great question, Senator Stewart. And thank you for all your advocacy on behalf of Indigenous Australians and all Australians. And we do have good news to celebrate when it comes to helping First Nations children access the benefits of quality early education. More than 95% of First Nations children are now enrolled in preschool. And there has been improvement in every state and territory. And what that means is that together we have met, for the first time, Closing the Gap Target 3. And it is a landmark achievement because quality early learning does give children a great start in life. It helps them arrive at school ready to thrive. And we know there's more to do, but this achievement really shows what is possible when governments listen to First Nations communities and work in genuine partnership with them. And I was really proud to mark this achievement alongside Minister for Indigenous Australians, Senator McCarthy. And I recently joined Minister McCarthy at Garma on Yolngu country. And there we listened to communities, we heard their ambitions for their children, and our government is backing that ambition. With Labor's 3-day guarantee, every family now has access to at least 3 days of childcare subsidy each week, and First Nations children can access 5 days. And this has been a game changer. The data shows us that more First Nations children are using early learning as a result. More children are getting the opportunity to learn and grow in their early years. And more parents are getting the practical support they need to make life work and to build a strong future. It was First Nations communities who advocated to make it possible, and we have listened.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Stewart, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. Meeting this Closing the Gap target is an important milestone, but as both you and I know, there is more work ahead. How is the Albanese Labor government partnering with First Nations communities to help more children start school strong?
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Minister Walsh.
Thank you. And we should celebrate this milestone and do more to ensure that First Nations children are supported to develop, thrive and be ready for school. And we know what works. Early learning centres that are community-led, that are culturally safe, that are trusted by families. And I saw that in Derby, where I met Rowena Muda and the Nanga women. For years, they ran playgroups in local parks and halls for children to play and learn together. But they wanted more. They had a vision for a permanent home and a quality early learning centre. And we listened and we backed them. Our government is investing $9 million from our Building Early Education Fund towards a new service operated by those very women, the Nanga women. And we'll invest in more ACCO-led services like this too, because this is how we close the gap.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Stewart, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Every child deserves the opportunity to benefit from quality early learning. How has the Albanese Labor government listened to the concerns of First Nations communities about previous approaches, and how have we responded?
Minister Walsh.
Thank you. Well, we believe that children shouldn't miss out on early learning because of their parents' circumstances. But that is exactly what the Coalition's activity test did. If a parent lost their job, their child could lose access to early learning. If a parent couldn't find enough work, their child could lose access to early learning. The Coalition locked out children for things that they had absolutely no control over, including the children who had the most to gain from early learning, including First Nations children. And we changed that, and we're proud of that. We said that access should be about the child, not their parents' work roster, not whether their mum could pick up another shift. And our 3-day guarantee is now in place, and First Nations children can access 5 days of subsidised early learning each week. We delivered this. It is working, and every child, including First Nations children, deserve a great start in life.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cadell.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. How much additional cost at the petrol bowser will Australians be slugged under the government's new proposed carbon tax on fuel?
Minister Wong.
For Senator, there isn't one, but I would make the point when it comes to fuel that the government has worked particularly with our partners to ensure that fuel supplies have continued into Australia. Fuel, fertiliser and related products have continued into Australia, notwithstanding the disruption to global energy markets as a consequence of the intermittent closure of the Straits of Hormuz. And what that experience, I think, has confirmed is a number of things. One is the importance of good partnerships into our region and a joint approach a regional approach to economic resilience. But the second is also the sovereignty point, to ensure we have more capacity to provide for ourselves in critical supply chains in our country. If you are discussing low-carbon liquid fuels, the point I would make is that is a policy that seeks to grow and diversify supply chains, including for Australian-made fuel made in Australia from Australian feedstock. And that is an important aspect of what is being currently discussed. We do think Australian farmers and ethanol producers can help protect Australia from the vulnerability that has been on display, not just in energy markets, but at the Bowser. At the Bowser, we have seen what has happened when you see the spikes to energy prices. The price of oil spiking as a result of the constriction in demand.
You don't know who you are.
I'm sorry, Minister. Order across the chamber. Minister, did you wish to continue?
We saw why we need to look at how we ensure our fuel resilience.
Minister, the time for answering has expired. Senator Cadell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, the government's position is clear on page 45 of the consultation paper that the cost of the proposed carbon tax on fuel will be paid by the end consumer. How much Labor's carbon intensity tax on fuel add to the cost of a tank of diesel for Australian truckies?
Thank you, Senator Cadell. Minister Wong.
Well,
order.
Senator,
Minister
I'm
Wong.
interested.
I'm sorry, Minister Wong. Please resume your seat. Senator McKenzie. Minister Wong, please continue.
Well, Senator, President, through you, it used to be that the Nationals were regarded as the Farmers' Party, but it does appear that they are not interested in the views of farmers. And I think if Senator Cadell is referring to the release of the consultation paper on Tuesday, I would make this point. The National Farmers Federation has welcomed the Australian government's release. I know this is very upsetting for you, Senator McKenzie, because you don't speak for them anymore. It's upsetting, isn't it?
Minister Wong, please direct your
comments
to the
Chair. The National Farmers Federation has welcomed the Australian government's release of consultation papers on establishing the Australian Fuel Security Reserve and proposed measures to strengthen Australia's fuel resilience, including increasing the minimum stockholding obligation. Wait for it, Senator McKenzie, and low-carbon liquid fuels. And low-carbon liquid fuels. It's so upsetting, isn't it?
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. I'm just going to wait. Senator McKenzie, quite frankly, I am over-calling your name. Senator Cadell, second supplementary.
Thank you very much. Minister, you've been unable to tell Australians how much more they will pay in two answers now. Why is the government withholding the Australian public the modelling showing the costing of how much they will pay on the new carbon tax on fuel?
I'm waiting for silence across the chamber before I order. Minister Watt, order applies to you. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Well, first, the government's put out a consultation paper that is what we are discussing, which has been welcomed by industry, not just the NFF, but also GrainCorp. The second point I would make is that the allowable level of ethanol that can be added to petrol is already established under Australia's fuel quality standards, and the government does not have plans to change or increase these.
Order.
You just can't. You want to construct a scare campaign. It's unfortunate the facts don't support it, isn't it? And it's unfortunate that some of those who you purport to represent are actually not joining in the circus. Because really, who do you represent? You don't represent farmers, you don't represent grain producers. Who do you represent now? Just the people of Elwood.
You don't even represent Gina anymore.
Order. Order across the chamber. Minister Wong, had you finished your contribution? Thank you. Senator Brown.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health, Disability and Ageing, Senator McAllister. The Albanese Labor government believes in a simple principle. We believe that no matter where you live or where you come from, Australians should have access to affordable health care. I, like all my colleagues, want Australians to see a doctor without a hit to their hip pockets. How is the government strengthening Medicare to help Australians get the care they need for free?
Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Brown, who of course is a staunch advocate for public health and for Tasmania. Because when we are talking about access to health care, the Albanese Labor government's proposition is very simple. When you're sick, the only card that you should need is your Medicare card, and we are delivering real change for Australians. With just a Medicare card, more Australians are seeing a GP for free. With just a Medicare card. Now, under those opposite, bulk billing in free fall. But thanks to this government's historic investment in Medicare, bulk billing has now risen to 84%. And that means parents don't have to worry about taking a sick child to the doctor. It means that workers don't have to worry about or choose between seeing a GP and keeping more of what they earn. And that's not all. With their Medicare card, Australians can get free urgent care at one of 137 Medicare urgent care clinics around the country. 4 out of 5 Australians live within a 20-minute drive of a Medicare urgent care clinic. Now, those opposite, of course, call this wasteful spending. We know that it is an essential part of an available, accessible, affordable healthcare system, and it's why we've made Medicare urgent care clinics permanent. Now, the thing is, Senators, you don't have to take my word for it. We can ask, in fact, any Tasmanian senator, Senator Brown, because when their Liberal Deputy Premier, Guy Barnett, needed urgent care after a game of tennis, where did he go? Well, he went off to the Medicare Urgent Care Clinic, one of 8 Medicare Urgent Care clinics right across Tasmania. Now, that is what Medicare looks like when it is working for all Australians, and that is what Labor governments do. They strengthen Medicare, they make healthcare more affordable, and they deliver real change for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Senator Scarr, it is not the role in here for a senator on the opposition backbench to try and out-yell a minister. I asked you to come to order. You were so loud, I don't even think you heard me. So, Senator Colbeck, I do not need to hear from you. Senator Brown, first supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for that response. The PBS is a key pillar of Australia's universal healthcare system because Australians shouldn't have to choose between paying for the medicines they need and paying the bills. How is the Albanese Labor government delivering more cheaper medicines for more Australians?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, thanks to the Albanese Labor government, PBS medicines are now the cheapest that they have been in 20 years. And so the last time that medicines were this cheap was in 2004. And thanks to our investments in cheaper medicines, Australians have saved more than $2.9 billion since July 2022. But we should be clear about the history of this, because if the Liberals and the Nationals and One Nation had their way, the maximum PBS co-payment would be more than $50. So under those opposite, families right across Australia would be paying twice as much for their medicines as they are today. We are adding more medicines to the PBS so Australians can access the treatments they need at a price they can afford. And just this month we listed the first new treatment in 20 years for rare brain cancer, a treatment that can slow progression of the disease. Australians shouldn't have to choose between their health and their hip pocket.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown, second supplementary.
Thank you. The Minister has clearly set out how the Albanese Labor government is delivering real change and helping Australians get the care they need. Can the Minister outline whether anything stands in the way of the government's approach?
Order. Senator Colbeck, I haven't even called the Minister, and already you are being disrespectful to me and to the Minister by interjecting. Either leave the chamber or listen in silence. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, we on this side of the chamber built Medicare, we backed the PBS, and we built universal superannuation.
Minister McAllister, please resume your seat. Order. Minister Watt and Senator Colbeck. Order. Minister McAllister, please continue.
Well, President, those opposite are always trying to tear down those essential safety nets. But there is one safety net that those opposite are always very good at protecting, and it's not Medicare, It's not super. It is, in fact, the great Liberal Party safety net. Now, this is a safety net which ensures that those opposite will always be looked after, whatever befalls them. So the Senator for Higher Taxes, Senator Hume, is now the Shadow Minister for Finance. The Shadow Minister for Housing is comparing teenagers to cats and dogs. He sees communism wherever he looks. And the member for Goldstein has become the Shadow Treasurer, and that actually requires no further elaboration. On the evidence, the great Liberal Party safety net is one of the most effective pieces of social protection in the world.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Minister Watt. A recent media report has highlighted that on 475 occasions since March 23, the AAT or the ART set aside visa cancellations for people with substantial criminal records. 16 of these people were found guilty of child sexual offences. At least 10 of these decisions were made under Minister Burke as Home Affairs Minister. How many of these cases did the Home Affairs Minister intervene in to ensure that child sex offenders did not retain Australian visas?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Whitten. Obviously, I don't have those precise numbers with me as the representing minister, but if there is anything I can provide, I'll certainly do so. The question you're asking, I think, goes to actions of the AAT to overturn decisions by the minister or his department to cancel visas for people who've committed very serious criminal offences. What that demonstrates is that the minister and his department have cancelled a visa of a criminal offender. They have taken the action that they can take to cancel those visas and deport those individuals, which is exactly what should be happening. Now, of course, the AAT on occasion will make a different decision. In our last term of office, you might recall that we changed the ministerial direction that set out the conditions that the AAT should take into account. Another step by our government taken to ensure that Australians are kept safe. But, as I think you've suggested in your question, if the AAT does make a decision to set aside the minister's decision to cancel a visa, then that will go back to the minister for reconsideration. I know that in many, if not most, cases, the minister has made a second decision to cancel someone's visa. So what that demonstrates is that this government is taking every possible action that is available to ministers to cancel visas where that needs to be done. We, of course, do provide direction to the AAT about the government's position on these issues. They are an independent body. We don't always agree with the decisions that they make. But from Minister Burke's point of view, he has consistently taken strong action to ensure that those individuals who don't deserve a place in Australia have their visas cancelled.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten, first supplementary.
A report in The Australian on the 18th of August referred to the case of a man in his 50s convicted of multiple child sex offences, having his visa cancellation overturned by the federal court. This is a man that, according to the tribunal records, assaulted a 16-year-old boy at a bus station, forced him to a hotel and attempted to rape him. This was not an isolated incident. He had other convictions involving underage children. What personal action has the Home Affairs Minister taken in response to this court decision?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Watt.
I think I'm aware of the particular case that you're referring to, Senator Whitten. And as I've said, the Australian government and Minister Burke take our and his responsibility to protect the Australian community from risk of harm by non-citizens very seriously. That's why, as I've said, the usual course in these situations is that ministers or departments have cancelled visas for individuals similar to the situation that you're describing. The reality is that a decision to refuse or cancel a non-citizen's visa application is open to some forms of review. And while I can't speak to the specifics of this case, I can confirm that the decision of the federal court is being examined. So you're correct. If we are talking about the same case, you are correct that the federal court did overturn a previous decision. I think it was either by the minister or the department That decision by the court is currently being examined, and whatever action can be taken will be.
Senator Whitten's second supplementary.
The Minister for Home Affairs inherited Ministerial Directive 110 from the previous minister, a directive that has allowed hundreds of people with substantial criminal history to stay in the country, with at least 10 of those being convicted of child sex crimes. Now we have the federal court overturning the ART's decision. These are people that have failed the character test and must be removed from the country. Will the minister commit to making a more substantial directive to the ART, strengthen migration laws and protect the Australian people?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Whitten. I would certainly want to check those figures that you've cited to ensure that they are accurate. But as I've already stated, in our last term of office, the ministers at the time did create a new ministerial direction to the AAT to make even more clear the government's expectations as to the sort of things that they would take into account when they're considering these types of matters. The reality is that we do have an independent AAT who makes these decisions about review applications that are made, but I think the government has made very clear what its expectations have been, and indeed we strengthened those expectations in our first term. I might just remind you, Senator Whitten, that there have been occasions where the One Nation Party, despite its constant claims to toughen up on people, has actually voted the other way. Because we all remember that after the terrible Bondi atrocity, when this government tried to strengthen legislation to deport hate preachers, One Nation voted against us.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whittaker.
President, I believe that I might have been handing my spot to Senator Tyrrell.
Okay, so you just need to inform the table office. I have you on the list, but...
Okay. Should I go ahead? I'm happy to go ahead. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Youth, Senator Walsh. Young Australians want the same opportunities as the generations before them: a good job, fair pay and the chance to build a secure future. The Albanese Labor government is delivering real change by getting wages moving, strengthening workplace protections and helping young Australians keep more of what they earn. What does the latest wage data tell us about our progress in improving the economic security of young workers?
Minister Walsh.
Thank you, Senator Whittaker, for your question, for your support for...
Minister Walsh, if you would resume your seat. Come to order. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Whittaker, for all of your support for young workers in WA and workers across the country. And this week's data confirms that wages are growing under Labor. Wages are up by 3.2% over the year, and real wages are up in the quarter as well. And that matters for young workers, the young Australians who are starting...
Please resume your seat. Order. Senator Wong.
President, point of order about the disruptive behaviour from those opposite. This is a question about young Australians, and I think some of people would like to talk about. It would be, I think, at least a bit of courtesy and respect for young Australians that the minister could at least be heard. At least be heard.
Thank you, Minister. Order. You would be aware that throughout this question time in particular, I have called to order. I have reminded senators that I'm quite prepared to use Standing Order 203. I should not have to do this. I expect the minister to be heard in silence. Minister Walsh.
And we support, President, the young Australians who are starting their first job, building their skills, building their careers, building their future and getting ahead. The Albanese Labor government is committed to helping them do just that. How? This way. On our watch, the minimum wage is now more than $12,000 a year higher, and it is $1,000 a week for the first time. That's because we've backed 5 consecutive increases to the minimum wage, and I'll take the interjection. You think that is a joke? We think that is progress for Australian workers. As the Prime Minister said, we absolutely back higher minimum wages for Australians.
Walsh, please resume your seat. Order. Order. Minister Wong. Senator McKenzie. Senator McKenzie, if you interject any more during the remainder of question time, I am going to name you Understanding Order 203. If you don't think you can keep quiet for the remainder of question time and you don't want to come under Standing Order 203, leave the chamber. But I am serious. I'm over the interjections. I'm over the rudeness. I'm over the disrespect. Minister Walsh. Please continue.
Thank you, President. Well, our government will never walk away from young workers. And as the Prime Minister has said, we absolutely back higher minimum wages for Australians, unlike all of those opposite, and that includes young Australians. It's why we back penalty rates. It's why we've locked them in with legislation.
Order.
It's why we back making wage theft a crime, and we have. It's why we back abolishing junior rates, giving young workers in retail, fast food and pharmacy a pay rise. Before I entered Parliament, I was proud to represent young hospitality workers, so I know that the biggest beneficiaries of these changes are our nation's young people. This is what Labor is delivering: higher wages, higher weekly earnings. Our government has got wages moving. We know you all love low wages, and we back Australian workers.
Thank you, Minister Walsh. Senator Whittaker, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Young Australians make an important contribution in workplaces across our economy. They deserve wages that properly value their work and give them the opportunity to get ahead. How is the Albanese Labor government acting to lift wages and deliver fairer pay for young workers?
Thank you, Senator Whittaker. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, President. Well, Labor listens to young people and we act on what they tell us. I recently met Braden, Prachi, Janita and Misha, 4 young workers from the SDA who stood up for fair pay. They campaigned for 18 to 20-year-olds working in retail, fast food and pharmacy to be paid the same as their older co-workers. It's not too much to ask. It worked and it's only fair, because we'll always back a fair day's pay for a fair day's work on this side of the chamber, and that includes for young Australians. Their contribution deserves to be valued. They never got that under the Coalition government. The Coalition called low wages a deliberate design feature. We call it a deliberate choice to make wages higher. When young workers stood up, we stood with them, and together we are delivering fairer pay.
Thank you, Minister Walsh. Senator Whittaker, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, young Australians deserve these higher wages and improved conditions, but our progress so far cannot be taken for granted. What obstacles stand in the way of delivering fair wages and greater economic security for young workers?
Thank you, Senator Whittaker. Minister Walsh.
Well, thank you, President, and we're hearing from those obstacles right now, because the biggest obstacle is all of those opposite, who always oppose higher wages for young Australians. Everybody knows what young people got from the Coalition government. They spent a decade deliberately keeping wages low, and they were proud of it. And One Nation are cut from the same cloth. They don't back young workers either. They opposed increases to the minimum wage. They want to scrap penalty rates. They want to make it easier to sack workers, and we know who goes first, and it's young workers. They tried to block better job security for casuals. They voted against.
Resume your seat. Withdraw that, Senator Hume.
President, you can't just make stuff
up.
Senator
Hume.
But they're making stuff up.
Senator Hume, resume your seat. Senator Hume, no, you do not sit in your seat and withdraw. You stand up. No, you haven't withdrawn twice. Order. 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 No, I'm running the chamber, Senator Hume, not you. Senator Ayres, resume your seat. I'm going to remind those across the chamber, if you make a remark which is disorderly, you withdraw it respectfully. You don't add to it. You don't make comment. You simply stand up and withdraw, and you do that when I ask. Senator Hume, please withdraw.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Senator Walsh.
Thank you, President. And I was, of course, talking about One Nation, and Senator Hugh may want to run protection for One Nation, because they are really two sides of the same coin. They all oppose higher wages for young workers. One Nation oppose better protections for gig workers. They oppose making wage theft a crime. They oppose better job security for casuals. On this side of the chamber,
the time for answering has expired. Senator Chandler.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Minister, with $1 trillion in government debt, how much is the Commonwealth currently paying on interest on this debt each minute?
Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank the Shadow Minister for Finance for the question, and it gives me the opportunity to reflect on the complete and utter hypocrisy of those opposite when they raise the issue of the concern and the hand-wringing around Australia's
Gallagher,
debt.
Please resume your seat. Senator Gallagher.
President.
Beg your pardon, Senator Chandler. I'm sorry.
President, point of order is relevance. I didn't ask for the minister's reflection. I asked a very tight question that I would like an answer to.
Thank you, Senator Chandler. The minister had just stood to answer. I note that the interjections on my left started immediately. I'll remind you, you need to listen in silence. If the minister is not relevant to the question, I will draw her to that question. Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And the complete and utter hypocrisy of those opposite when they come in here and hand-wring about Australia's debt, public debt, because
Minister Gallagher. Senator Cash.
I'm going to go direct relevance because it was a very tight question.
Order on my right. Senator Cash has the right to be heard in silence. Once again, Senator Cash, the minister had just stood. She started referring to debt, so I will continue to listen to her answer. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And I can assure the Shadow Minister for Finance that it is the debt that we are repaying, most of which was accrued under those opposite from 2013 to 2022, if you go back and have a look, is less than it would have been had they been left in charge. Because we have paid down debt, and because we've paid down debt, we are paying lower interest on that debt. And they are the facts. They are the facts. 2 surpluses, returning upward revision to revenue, to budget, finding savings. Debt is lower in every year that we have been in government than what it would have been if we had followed the path of those opposite.
Thank you, Minister. I'm waiting for silence. Senator Chandler.
Thank you, President. Thank you. Minister, with $1 trillion in government debt, how much has the Commonwealth paid in interest on this debt in total since Labor came to government in May 2022?
Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Gallagher.
Well, I would remind those opposite that when we came to government, gross debt was forecast to be $977 billion. That was the figure for the 22-23 fiscal year that you were responsible
Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Hume.
Sorry, direct relevance, President. That's an answer to a completely different question.
Thank you, Senator Hume. The minister is being directly relevant to Senator Chandler's question. Minister, please continue.
Merely drawing to those opposite attention the history and the facts of this matter, which is the majority of the debt that we are managing now and managing in a much more responsible way was accrued under those opposite when they were in government. They doubled the debt before the pandemic hit.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cash.
Again, President, it is direct relevance. I'm not quite sure how much tighter we can draft our questions.
Thank you, Senator Cash, and I will remind you that the first part of Senator Chandler's question asked since this government was elected. That was directly relevant. I can't be any clearer. As you know, I can't direct the minister to answer in the way that you might see fit, but your question is relevance and direct relevance, and the minister is being both. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And as we outlined in this year's budget, debt is lower than what we inherited, and interest payments on that debt is lower. In terms of the forecast that we were provided, it is lower. And interest on that debt is lower because of the budget decisions that we have made.
Thank you. Senator Chandler. I'm just waiting for order. Second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, under your government, Australians have suffered the biggest fall in living standards in the developed world, 15 interest rate rises and now $1 trillion of government debt. This year, $28 billion will be spent just on the interest to that debt. That could be spent on 200,000 nurses or 400,000 aged care packages or 1,000 kilometres of regional highway upgrades. Minister, how can you claim that things are getting better when Labor's debt is wasting billions that could be helping Australians?
I'm not calling the minister till there's silence. Minister Gallagher.
Well, the point I'm making, President, is that we are managing the debt burden in a much more responsible way than those opposite.
Order.
And in fact, in this year, debt is $7 billion lower than it would have been under those opposite, who went to the last election promising higher taxes, bigger deficits and more debt, and since the election have made a whole range of new promises that will mean that debt will be even higher going forward. So how are you going to pay for your income tax cuts? How are you going to pay for all the repealing of the tax reform that we've done? How are you going to pay for the EV tax discount? How are you going to pay for removing better targeted super concessions? How are you going to pay with your defence spending? How are you going to pay for removing the HAF removal? There's a whole range of areas. What about Inland Rail? What about Inland Rail that you promised to build? That you have to explain how you're going to pay for that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Tyrrell.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Cities, Senator Ayres. For too long, too many Australians have felt that the housing market is fundamentally broken, that the system is stacked against them and that home ownership is just too far out of reach. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to help more Australians into home ownership?
I'm waiting for silence. Minister Ayres.
Thanks, President, and thank you to Senator Tyrrell for that question. I can only assume, following Senator Ruston's interjection, that I've been asked to answer a question just to get everybody to calm down a little bit. It's been a little bit noisy. Poor old Senator Gatenby's only been here for a week. He has been trying to interject all afternoon, and you lot have been bellowing over the top of him. We want to hear the quality of his interjections over here. Where we are really looking forward to that. We are really looking forward to that. An improvement in the quality of the interjections. This is a government that understands how important housing is to Australians, and understands what has happened and changed. What has happened and changed the experience of Australians in terms of the way that they feel about their chances of getting their first home or getting a fair rental deal, getting the opportunity for the security of housing. And what we have done as a government is, no matter how tough it is, we have delivered real change. I'll come to the Policy Development Unit over there in a minute. It makes a real difference. Real change for Australians, a $47 billion housing package, 5% home deposits, thousands of social and affordable homes constructed and thousands more on the way. Tax changes that fundamentally change the housing market and mean that young Australians, for the first time in a generation—
My goodness, I am well and truly over the interjections. The rudeness shown particularly by senators on my left is quite extreme today. I've called you personally. I've called you to order. I invite you to leave the chamber, because, quite frankly, I've had enough of calling you out. It is disrespectful to me as President. Senator Ayres, please continue.
I think that was what the sound you just heard was my train of thought being derailed, President. I'll sit down and wait for the supplementary question.
Senator Tyrrell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Well, let's get you back on track.
Senator Tyrrell, resume your seat. Senator Tyrrell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Well, we'll get the train back on track. More Australians now finally have a real opportunity to get into home ownership. What is the Albanese Labor government doing to make sure that homes are safe, decent and affordable, whether they're first home buyers or renters?
Minister Ayres.
Well, I think I've outlined the sum of our effort in terms of home and construction, but Senator Ruston interjects to say, President, what does decent mean? Well, decent means standards in housing that mean that we have swimming pool safety and barriers, standards around stairs, balustrades and fall
Senator
prevention, drinking water safety, sanitary plumbing and sewerage, wastewater disposal, ventilation, smoke alarms and emergency exits, bushfire, flood and cyclone-prone standards and
Senator
standards
Ruston, again.
that go to the decency of
Ayres,
housing.
resume your seat. Senator Ruston, I called you twice during that first supplementary, and the second time I called you completely ignored me, once again showing disrespect to me as the President. I invite you to listen quietly or leave the chamber. Minister Ayres, please continue.
And we have seen around the world, including in the United Kingdom, in the Grenfell housing disaster, what it means when you cut housing standards and think it's okay to put ordinary people, working people into substandard housing, as Senator Bragg suggested
Senator
just a few days
ago. The time
ago.
for answering has expired. Senator Tyrrell, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Albanese Labor government is delivering safe, secure and affordable homes around the country. Can the minister outline what approaches to Australia's housing standards might risk the safety and security of prospective Australian homeowners and renters?
Minister Ayres.
Well, I did wonder whether we'd come to alternative approaches, I suppose, and it seems like just a few days ago that the Policy Development Unit of the Liberal Party was providing his report to the National Press Club. More policy development happening over there, and for just a few moments, just for these few days, it had a positive effect, a little ray of sunshine. The Liberals, who have spent the last 12 months backgrounding against each other, suddenly we're backgrounding against one person only, just for a few days. What a sense of relief Mr Taylor must have felt. What a sense of relief Mr Taylor must have felt. The Liberals finally united against this sort of trickle-down wolf in teal clothing over here, Senator Bragg.
Minister Ayres, withdraw that comment.
I withdraw. He did say it's hard to make perfect judgments all the time,
thank you,
but
Minister.
I do my
the time
best.
has expired.
Be placed on
Thank you,
notice,
Minister
President.
Wong.